to the computer. So welcome everyone to Carving a New Path. My name is Andrea Hylen, and I am the host of this show. And if it's the first time you're listening to the show, I just want to let you know that the show began in 2020 in response to all the change that people were experiencing. And I knew quite a few people who had had moments in their life when something was disrupted, and that through the disruption, through the change, they started listening to their inner voice and they birthed new ways of being in the world. And so we talk about all kinds of things, tools, resources, and all. But today, I'm going to be talking with my good friend, Karen Porter, about conscious self-evolution. And we have had many conversations. Matter of fact, today is the 7th show in a series of 10 where we've been talking about conscious self-evolution and highlighting some of the codes in Barbara Marx Hubbard's book, 52 Codes for Conscious Self-Evolution. Yes, thank you, Karen, for that demonstration. Today's show is called Come Forward as a New Norm. So, Karen, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I am doing very well. There's like so many thoughts going on in my head that I'm just going to pause for a moment and see. Let's just start. Okay, I want to just let everyone know that Karen and I have known each other for a long time. We homeschooled our children together. I think that's when we first met. We became peace ministers together in James Twyman's beloved community. We are evolutionary women and worked with Lucky Sweeny and Bonnie Kelley and studied with Barbara Marx Hubbard.
You know my voice?
Heal My Voice. I was just going to say, Heal My Voice would not exist. I heard the words Heal My Voice, and I had an idea that came out of a foundation of a book that Karen and I mentored people in together. And there was a point where I wanted to bring Heal My Voice out, and I had some naysayers, and without Karen being there saying, yes, this is a good idea. Yes, it's important for women to write about stories of trauma, loss, and grief. Yes, this is valuable. You can have an idea, but if we all need support. And Karen has always been the backbone of support. So thank you, Karen, for that.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the different turns and twists and plot twists and things that we have experienced together. So Karen, at one point did, I don't know how many shows you did about this book, but
A bunch. Yeah.
yeah. And so there's 52 codes. I mean, probably you did one, and did all kinds of different things. We call her Mama Porter. And there is a blog online that she hasn't written in a while, but it's still there, mamaporter.com. So if you want to check out things about Karen, that's there. And there's a bunch of links in the show page about ways to connect with me. So that's enough of that, I think. So let's get into it. So this is code 33. Like I said, it's the 7th show, so we haven't been talking about every single code, but this one is come forward as a new norm, not as superior or exceptional. And I just want to presence also that on my website, you can find a series of articles that I've written about that kind of formed a foundation for these shows that I originally published in On Purpose Woman, global community in their magazine. So I'm going to just set the tone a little bit by reading something from this particular blog. My grandson Cooper is almost 2 years old. Actually, he is 2 years old now. And when I wrote the article, I was thinking about all the different stages that he's been in through learning to roll over, crawl, walk, and that there were so many of us cheering him on at each step. Yes, look, he rolled over almost. Oh, there he is, encouraging, giving him a hand, and uproarious applause. All these adults around this little baby. And he always responded by lighting up the room with a smile and a sign of victory. But what I wrote in the article is now that he's 2 years old and he continues to develop, we don't cheer for him when he rolls over or he crawls or he walks. Like, this is a norm. This is just normal. We expect that he does these things. He doesn't stop to see if anyone's watching him. He's just, running around, walks, crawls, kicks the ball. Hi, Kushka. This is a norm also, kitty cat coming into camera space for anyone who's on
There you
YouTube.
go.
Yeah, if you're not on YouTube, just to let you know the background. Hello, Kushka. Anytime you come back. But my grandson has moved on to other things. He's using wonder and curiosity for learning language, motor, and music, fine motor skills. He has joy in his achievements. And there is applause and laughter and support occasionally for something new. But now the things he's mastered are not celebrated as superior to anyone else. It's just normal. And what I wanted to reflect on is that I was remembering that building a relationship with my intuition, that there were times years ago, decades ago, where something would happen and it'd be like, oh, like it was a magic trick. It was a magic trick that I could have these thoughts and insights, and then poof, something would appear. And now it's more about, like, when I wake up, I tune in to what is my day. Maybe there are things I do to make plans, or look at my schedule for work and all that. But I'm pausing throughout the day to tune into my higher self, to tune into my intuition. And it's normal. Like, I don't think of going to the bathroom or eating as like some huge big accomplishment in my life. And it's the same thing with intuition. I mean, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that I can eat and go to the bathroom and all those things. But there's something, that's what this code brings up for me, is that you just stop thinking that the conscious self-evolution and being connected to your full potential self is superior or exceptional. It's just listening and following. And it's not about being idolized because of something. It's about, I mean, in some ways, I think it is about being a model, but I don't even think of it as I'm modeling something. I just am living the most authentic, highest potential that I can, moment to moment. Not perfection. Yeah. So I don't know. What does this code bring up for you?
Oh, it's I think living in the new normal, not only the external normal, but the interior normal.
Mm,
So as we gain skills
hmm
or practices, that then becomes our new normal.
hmm
Um, uh, just the way we are in the world. And it was almost 25, 28 years ago that the Evolutionary Women meeting happened in Baltimore.
hmm
And Bonnie Kelley, observing, how we interacted as a group,
Oh,
said
yeah.
how extraordinary it was. And it was like, what?
Right.
That's not extraordinary. It's just like, that's just what made sense to us. That's just how we, one person got stuff together, another person fixed a space, another person was singing show tunes, another person was offering encouragement, another person, whatever. Um, and we were in this really creative, just in the flow kind of place.
Hmm.
And she told us that this isn't how the world works. Well, it
Hmm.
was for us.
Absolutely.
So, and it wasn't, extraordinary or superior. It just was our way of being.
Hmm.
And, I can think of, different family activities or gatherings or rituals that, so and so shows up with the coconut cake,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it kind of isn't complete unless there's the coconut cake or the ambrosia salad or whatever it is. um and somebody will make a stupid joke, and then everybody laughs, and that part of it has happened, and it's just our way of being.
Hmm.
So as I've learned skills, or different ways of interacting with my intuition or decision making, like muscle testing,
Hmm.
um it just becomes the way of life. This is just part of my decision making process.
Hmm.
um and there are lots of people out there that talk about different ways to really attune your intuition and ease the method of communication. For some people it's visual, that you think of a question, and you'll have prearranged signals, like fireworks means, ooh, great idea, and like a mud puddle, not so good idea. And
Hmm.
so you
Hmm.
ask yourself a question, and you get the visual for it.
Sure.
um so it's just it's always changing, evolving, and it's just basically just showing up
Sure.
and honoring where everybody else is in their process, and not being real concerned about people being judgy about where you are in your process.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, so I want to just fill the listeners in on a few details to understand the big concepts that Karen's talking about lightly, but when Bonnie Kelley was saying she'd never seen people work together this way, what what, so this is a community of women who had been homeschooling their kids together. And a number of us were peacemakers at that time, I think. Even if we weren't, we had done book groups and other things together.
Mhm.
And so when there's, you might think about wanting to be part of, for instance, the shared economy, where people pool resources in some way. Well, we had been living that way. And at the time, there were 1,000 families on a Yahoo group in the Baltimore, Washington area as one resource where people could share what they were, um, if somebody was organizing a trip to the Smithsonian, or they wanted to gather people for softball on a Monday afternoon or something. So that was one big way that people shared. We were part of a group called Kaleidoscope that had been started by a group of women, and a co-op I believe the co-op came out of that,
Mhm. Mhm.
Kaleidoscope. And so it was the idea that someone wanted science for their child, and they'd say, oh, I love science, I'm going to create a magic school bus club. And then people would say, oh, I'd like to come to that. And so they'd bring someone would say, well, we need toilet paper rolls, or we need egg cartons. And people would just, oh, I've got 5 that I've been saving, or I've got da da da. And we would just pool our resources. Like this was just our normal life. We were educating our children. We wanted them to be with other kids. We didn't want to just do this alone in our homes. We actually wanted to connect in a community. And so a community was born. And out of that, other things evolved, like book groups or um, Evolutionary Women Retreats. And everyone would just bring the thing that they had, or they would offer their skill. And like Karen was saying, somebody singing show tunes, it's like that's their thing. Someone else's Karen was always one to create journals and teach us how to do that and bring supplies for that. So each person was participating in doing that. That was our norm. And at one point, we probably each individually had been searching for something, and we were looking for something. Maybe we didn't even know what it was. But little by little, we came together, and it was our just our regular life. And then here, Bonnie Kelley, who hadn't been a part of our community, but who had been part of Evolutionary Women and started it with Lucky Sweeny, is looking from the outside going, this is extraordinary. This is incredible, but we didn't see it that way. And sometimes that's what's happened. You see someone else or something else that has evolved in a way that you haven't experienced yet. And so it does seem unusual. It does seem extraordinary. But when you're living it doesn't feel that way. It just feels like, well, we're in it. We're doing it. And I did write in the article a moment where I was talking with people about opening to inspiration. It was 2010. I had I'd had a number of things happen in my life where I realized that I had access to almost like another field, that I could access my intuition. I could wake up every morning, follow my intuition more, and it was normal. And then I started having conversations with some other people out in the world who I didn't know very well, who didn't know me, and they had no idea what I was talking about. And I began to feel superior to them. And then I landed in California. I wrote this in the article, but I landed in California, and some things just didn't go as smoothly as I thought they were going to go. So it's like, okay, open to inspiration, open to inspiration. What's happening? Well, there were other things for me to learn, and they were hard lessons or hard experiences that were good because it taught me a lot of other things. And I just let go of it because the superiority I had was kind of thinking that this was a magic trick I had, like my inspiration was magic. And it is. And when it's just a normal way of living and you're not trying to control it, you don't think of yourself as being superior. So one of the tips that I wrote was make friends with your ego around this. Yeah, that's what I've got on that one. But there was something else that you were talking about that I don't know. I'll come back to it if it comes up again. So what else about this code or another code?
Oh, other code. Ooh, there are so many.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are between where we were and where we are. Let's see, code 22, your true vocation calibrates you into the right position in the social body. Attunement to a larger design of creation is your guide as it orients you through attraction and the compass of joy. And being a recovering Catholic,
Mhm.
the compass of joy was, I think, one of my lessons. Being able to, I am joyful. Being able to really embody that whole concept that we're here for the ride and we might as well enjoy it.
Mhm.
Let's
Mhm.
just really embrace the joy. And um, Lucky used to talk about um, not being, it's okay, instead of saying, I don't know, it's saying, I'm in the process of knowing.
Yes.
I'm in
Yes.
the process. And we all are in the process. Um, Another thing that Barbara Marx Hubbard would talk about was that, maybe your job doesn't even have a job title.
Hmm. Oh, wait, you just muted yourself.
There's a
Okay.
phone call coming.
Okay.
Um, so that, yeah, if there's no job title, and probably, something that we do is hold space for whatever's happening.
Right.
And there's not quite a job title and no job description and no salary for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holding space. But yet, that um, it's really vital um, for the smooth processing of things. So just showing up, not worrying about if, that it's not totally formed, because we're never going to be totally formed. We're always in process. But just, keep doing the course correction to get get a little more back towards that compass of joy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that was one thing.
Well, before you go on, let me just read a few lines to people from her book to
Okay,
help it anchor in for them. One of the things is your true vocations are without labels. They are
right,
responsive to new conditions. So that's what Karen was talking about. But I feel like the clue in there is they are responsive to new conditions. So that part
right,
of the evolution is that, as some of the things we've talked about in the earlier shows, is that, looking at things that you need to release. What actually is in the way of this new thing coming into your life? And so these true vocations are explorations into the unknown world, as you were saying, that you are creating, and they are forming the new world. So these vocations are part of a larger pattern of evolution. And by saying yes to the inner impulse to create, you are guided to find one another. So it's that you are guided, and actually that example of the homeschooling is that there was something, like, I feel like when I started homeschooling my children, it was like the thing I had been searching for a long time, because it meant, for one thing, I got to spend more time with my children. And it meant that it brought, I was able to express myself in a way and use talents and skills that had been dormant in other things that I had been doing. And so, like, the freedom to express and do that. And yeah, so just the creativity and all, but noticing that when those, so each of us had an impulse of some sort that led us into being connected with each other. Okay. I'm
true. And
Yeah,
and also what the not knowing what the outcome was going to be.
right, right.
Um,
It's like
for
being,
her,
you have to be willing to be in the mystery of
right,
and
right,
curious.
yeah. Yeah, because the whole homeschooling journey, I think everybody approached it. I know I approached it very differently than other homeschooling moms.
Hmm.
Um, my kids needed to be kids.
Yeah.
Um, they were, we adopted the two boys from orphanages. Anton was 4 years old when he came home, and Sasha wasn't quite two. But it's like they just needed to be kids. They didn't need to be in a school system that was going to tell them how they needed to be, when they needed to, perform X, Y, and Z. They, it was like, God, give them a childhood. And they needed it. A lot of neglect, lack of stimulation, caused for pretty delayed brain development. Yet that it developed. They were late readers. Anton learned to read when he was 12, Sasha when he was 9 or 10. But they have, master's degrees, and they're out in the world, doing
Mhm.
their thing.
Yeah.
And had they stayed in the school system, I don't know what would have happened. They would have been labeled, and pretty miserable.
Mhm.
So I had, I just had the faith that everything would happen in its own time,
Mhm.
and just to basically ignore the naysayers and follow my convictions.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and people do it because, some kids are, the schedule and the routine is just doesn't fit the learning profile of a certain kid, or they need lots more stimulation, or they need to learn in a completely different way. So they spin and they're on a trampoline, and that's how they learn the, times tables.
Yeah.
And so how do you accommodate for your kids' needs, not within a current system?
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's having, the faith that it will be okay in its own time. Yeah, Anton will learn to read, but it didn't happen until he was 12.
Sure.
And that's fine. Once he started reading, he was reading Harry Potter.
Right.
It wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't like it was like C, Dick, and Jane. So
Well,
it was,
same thing happened for my youngest daughter. She was 10 or 11 when she read, but she had an incredible vocabulary because we always read books to her and everything. So she went from not reading to reading, like
uh-huh, uh-huh,
grade level above, actually.
uh-huh.
And the thing that leads us to different things, like Karen says, it's different things. I feel like one of the big evolutions right now is work. And
Mhm, mhm,
COVID
mhm.
really threw us into, I mean, here's the thing. We've been doing Zoom calls for years before COVID. I think it was
Right,
2015, 2016. We were already doing that. And before that, it was Skype that we had used. Um, and we're talking with people in different parts of the world as just a norm. That was just a norm. But all of a sudden, and Zoom to us was normal, but to other people, it was like, well, why would I do that? Or why would I want to connect with people that way until COVID happened? And then as jobs were changing, and it's not just that was the total driver, but it definitely accelerated things around remote work, remote physician appointments. That if you do not need something to be physically happening, it makes sense that you would just get on and talk with the doctor through a Zoom screen or some kind of, webcam thing. I mean, it makes more sense than
right, right.
driving someplace, sitting and waiting in the waiting room. No, you have an appointment, you hop on, and that's where it is. So these, so now it's normal. Now it's normal to have a cat walk across the screen, whereas it used to be seen as unprofessional or whatever.
Absolutely.
I even did a talk the other day for On Purpose Woman about up-leveling archetypes, and my internet went out, and it was just a blip, but it knocked me off. And they just kept talking, and I was back within like 2.5 minutes, and then picked up the talk and kept going. But before COVID, that kind of thing would have been seen as being unprofessional. Now we're just like, we just roll with it more, I think. I don't know. That's my feeling of it. I would have rolled with it before, but it might have been looked as like, didn't you check your what, how could you check it? It was just like a blip on the screen that happened. And then it's like, oh, I lost it. I'm back. Okay. Yeah. So what else? Is there another code you want to highlight kind of in
Oh,
our
sure. Oh, sure. There's it is stop and feel your divine qualities in order to incarnate them.
Okay, so talk
Ooh.
about that one.
Um, I just like the sound of it.
Yeah. Well, the first line, once you get into it, is imagine being the universal human that you are. And it feels
Right,
like
right.
that is
Yeah.
one of the steps towards something becoming normal, is that you're not looking at it as being outside of you, but you're actually looking at it as part of your internal makeup. This is who I
Right.
am. And if you feel like it's funny, you know what I'm thinking about is when I recorded 45 or 44 radio shows over one season. When I first started the show and I was talking about grief transformation, I was sort of like, why am I doing this again? I'm not a radio show host. But there was a
Mhm.
point where I just kept showing up, and it just became normal to have conversations with people about grief. And it was,
Mhm. Mhm.
and if there wasn't a guest, I might talk about something about using music as part of the
Mhm.
grief process, or
Mhm.
journaling
Mhm.
and writing. And, it was just so that by the time I finished the shows, it was just normal. It was like, oh, I'm a radio show host.
Mhm.
And these different roles, these different uh, vocations, true vocations that we are drawn to, because it wasn't something where it was like, that was my job. I mean, it was a vocation, it was something I was called to do. And it just felt normal after a while, to be on the radio, having conversations
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
people who I had just met, and asking them about really personal things, and having them share their process of grief and how they transformed through that hard life or whatever.
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Does it bring up
Yeah.
something for you
Oh,
with
it
that?
brings up yeah, yeah. It's like it's exercising a muscle. It's like
Uh-huh.
you have a muscle you've never used. And the more you step into it, the stronger it'll be and the more part of you it'll become.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know how this is related, but somehow in my mind it is. I discovered a new YouTube channel, and now I'm not going to remember her name. But she's an artist who went through a very dark period of time after her mother died, and is coming out of that. And so her focus is on aging creatively and gratefully,
Mm-hmm.
um, and aging gracefully.
Mm-hmm.
But she'll talk about projects and techniques and stuff, but then she'll also talk about things like uh, kind of getting tripped up by your age. It's like
Mm-hmm.
she didn't see a wire, and it's like she was walking across the floor, and then the next thing she knew, she was like totally down on the floor, not knowing how she got there.
Uh-huh.
Um, and kind of breathing through that, and then that brought up grief work that she did after her mother, she kind of pretended everything was all right. But when everybody would leave the house, she would go into her pantry and just sob.
Mm.
And um, and she talked about the different grief therapy that she had and some coping skills. But she said that she really caught herself when she found that, she was on the floor. About 30 seconds, she went into, calling herself names and thinking that she was, old and stupid and useless and blah, blah, blah. And then that stopped.
Mhm.
And, the reframing, it's like, yeah, I didn't see that wire.
Mhm.
And, give yourself the grace that, things happen and you make mistakes. And if you need to not do something the following day because you're a little achy, then
Uh-huh.
that's okay. You'll do it the following day.
Sure.
Um, and it's that catching yourself,
Mhm.
not going down the old path, choosing a new path, even though, you may need to like clear the briars out of the way. And it seems like you don't make much progress. It's a little step, little baby steps. um, the further we get down that new path, the more comfortable we're going to feel, and the easier we will be able to navigate it.
Mhm. Yeah, and the thing it brings up for me also is that at different ages in our lives, the same um the same situation brings up different things for us. And I had a point where I got tripped up going over this baby gate last year. My flip-flop got caught on the whatever part of it, and I just flipped and like fell. I was like, I'm going down. Like, and I'm right away thinking, this is what they're talking about. You get older and you fall. And both of my daughters were like, Mom, that wasn't aging. You
Yeah.
were coming over the baby gate with your arms full of dirty dishes from upstairs, and your flip-flop got caught on the gate. Like they were like, that could have happened to any of us. So I thought, yeah, at different ages. So I go right away into it's because I'm old, I'm older. Someone else might criticize himself at another age about how they're stupid and clumsy, and so even things like that, like catching ourselves with, yeah, I'm looking here actually, code 32 is stay in your center and breathe in the light.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
Like
Yeah.
give yourself the grace
Great. Right.
and integration, that conscious
Mhm.
self-evolution, you are actually changing. Things are changing, and it can be that you feel out of sync physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so part of that is the slow down, no matter what age you are,
Mhm.
and breathe it in, stay in your center, um, breathe in the light, just take deep breaths, breathe into the center of your heart, and just feel a connection with your vibration
Mhm.
so that you're feeling the highest potential, the highest evolution, the connection to the part of you that does know the answers, that does know what the next steps are and all.
Yeah, the breathing is such a it's a tool we can really learn to use to aid us
Mhm.
so much. Um, whether it's at the dentist office, dealing with family, whatever. It's like you breathe in what you want and you exhale what you don't need. You know, you
Mhm.
breathe in calm, you exhale tension,
Mhm.
you breathe in peace, you exhale disharmony. You know, whatever it is, you do the
Yeah,
exchange
yeah.
and just over and over and over. Um, yeah, I love the breathing into.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's such a good tool.
It is. And, I want to circle back to just say that when we talk about come forward as a new norm, not as superior or exceptional, it's not that we're looking for perfection. It's
Mhm.
that by releasing what you no longer need and embracing these impulses that are leading you to something else, give yourself time to integrate and recognize that there's going to be a point where it just feels normal. It feels normal to talk on Zoom. It feels normal to find people to gather in community and share resources. It's
Right.
normal to look at yourself in the mirror and truly feel your unconditional love for yourself and know that you are worthy. It becomes normal, not something that's superior or exceptional or unusual. It is you're operating at another level of consciousness.
Right. And to hold on to that level and the power that we have internally, because shit be crazy out there.
Yeah.
It so it really doesn't matter, you know, what happens in the next news cycle, in the next week, across the planet, what is upsetting people online. None of that. You have no, you know, the sunspots, the Schumann
Mhm.
resonance. We have no control over that.
Mhm. Mhm.
What we have control over is how we respond and react to whatever it is that we're presented with. And
Mhm.
that once you really know that, there it's empowering. It's also very calming for me. I don't have to worry because I just am.
Mhm.
No matter what's going on, I am.
Yeah. And you are love and you are worthy.
Yes.
And that is normal.
Yeah.
And Kushka being in the camera is normal. Hello, Kushka, sweet kitty cat. All right. Well, just to let everyone know that the next time we get together, there are two codes,
Ooh,
and I
two.
kind of clarified them under the words raise your thoughts. But the
Hmm.
two codes that I felt really applied to that, one is code 38, raise your thoughts to the magnetic integrated field of the whole being, which is really what Karen was talking about there. So that's where we're headed. And the other one, code 40, is communicate directly as your full potential self to the full potential self of others. So we'll have more conversation next time we get together to have that
Right.
conversation. And anything else that you want to say to the listeners?
Hmm. Breathe in, and hopefully you can feel the magnificence that is you.
I love that. I'm focusing on my heart, breathing in, breathing out, breathing love to you, Karen, and you, Kushka, for being here. Breathing in the love and breathing out to all the listeners. So thank you.
Mm.
All right.
Thank
See
you
you
for joining.
all.
See you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye now.